You talked about the different militias being armed. That's a systematic problem in Lebanon and
Yes.
has been for some time. The acceptance of Hezbollah having its arms has always been based on that. It's a resistance movement to Israeli occupation. And there's been case after case of when they defended Lebanon. This is different, what happened this time around, in terms of, we saw, as strategic as it was, in terms of how they deployed in Beirut, but we did see a deployment in Beirut proper, and Israel was nowhere around. How do you think that plays out, particularly among the Lebanese, in terms of perception of it?
I think the Lebanese are split because, in fact, it's not only this time, but since the first attempt to force the government to capitulate in the fall of in December, I think it was, of 2006, when Hezbollah sent up the tent city and tried to paralyze the downtown area.
But one can couch that as civil disobedience. This is a little harder to couch that way.
Look, I was in Beirut one time when they called for Hezbollah called for a general strike, and how did they make sure that people did not go to work? They had barricades and burning tires and mounds of sand all over the streets of the city. I mean, that comes close. That's more than civil disobedience. And there were armed men around and so on. I agree this went one step further.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
Definitely. But I think it has been since, sort of with the war in the summer of 2006, the war with Israel in the summer of 2006, Hezbollah came out feeling much stronger because, for once, Israel did not win. I'm not quite sure you can say it lost, but it certainly did not win. And Hezbollah came out fairly intact from that. And I think at that point, Hezbollah became more and more determined to start playing a political role commensurate with its power on the ground. And I think that's why they have been asking for a stronger presence in the government, for a more voice, the so-called blocking third, that they want to have at least 1/3 of, or 1/3 plus 1 of the cabinet seats in order to be able to block decisions that go against Hezbollah. And the stalemate has been created on that. And that's why, and because they could not get the blocking third, then they did not allow the election for the president to go ahead.
In the beginning of our discussion, you suggested this particular period kind of opens up a door in some ways, that they've flexed their muscle, the parties now know. What does that mean in terms of moving forward? I mean, there's some hope that maybe the national dialogue stuff could resume, but now it seems that...
So far, the Signora government has not clearly accepted that there is going to be to participate in the national dialogue. On the other hand, it's quite clear, and Hezbollah has made it quite clear, that there is never going to be a president, and there is never going to be any moving forward unless the government accepts to negotiate on a government that will give at least 1/3 of the seats to Hezbollah. In other words, unless Hezbollah scores those political gains it has been aiming for. And I find it very difficult to believe that under the present circumstances the government is going to be able to continue saying no, because it's clear that they have nowhere to go.
So what do you think happens next? I mean, it used to be the national dialogue was talking about election law, presidency, like addressing those issues. There are some now, post this crisis, who are saying, well, it also needs to get to a discussion of disarming Hezbollah, talking about actual weapons. That only complicates this to a whole, I mean, it really does mean it doesn't happen.
I don't think there is the slightest possibility that will be a dialogue on disarming of Hezbollah. The government has lost this confrontation. It's not in a position to try to force the disarming of Hezbollah. The question is whether the dialogue is going to go beyond what have been the demands of Hezbollah so far, the blocking until now, the blocking third and so on, and whether there is, I hear some discussion of the possibility that Hezbollah will start asking for a revision of the Taif agreement, which is the agreement that essentially apportions seats in the parliament, in the bureaucracy everywhere, between the various factions, between the various confessional groups in the country. Now, Hezbollah has not asked for that so far. I have not seen any request by Hezbollah to put that on the table. Unfortunately, or depending on the points of view, I think it's in the logic of the present situation.
It's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
That it's going to go in that direction. I mean, unfortunately, in the sense that it postpones a settlement for a very long time. If they reopen that issue, it's going to take a long time before the country settles down. In the long run, that issue will have to be reopened.